Every ambitious business relies on strong leadership and the ability to adapt as circumstances shift. Many founders begin with energy, yet later lose direction when their company demands new skills. David has spent years coaching entrepreneurs through growth, plateaus, and difficult transitions. His experience offers a realistic understanding of what separates consistent performance from constant firefighting. Today, we will explore the mindset, strategic focus, and behaviors that shape long term success. This is a conversation designed to help founders lead with a sharper intent and greater impact. All right, then. So we'll kick this off. David, why don't you tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into business?
Yeah, thanks, Mo, and thanks for inviting me on today. I'm really excited about this. So I've been a business coach for 5 years. My background was, for my sins, I've been in sales and in corporate life probably for over 20 years. Before that, I was in media. I ran big teams of 50, 60 people, big American companies, and I guess there was a realization around 5 or 6 years ago that I probably wasn't living the life that I wanted to.
Okay.
I was earning good money, but I probably wasn't happy, and that had been masked by the senior positions I was having and doing. So I made quite a big life-changing decision, which was I left corporate employment. I never forget the day that I made that decision. It was a light bulb moment, as they say. And I'd got into the office. I was working for a recruitment firm, and my boss, I'd been in since sort of 6:15 in the morning. And my boss said, I said to him, I'm going to leave a bit early today to watch my son's football match. And he said, you are going to make up the time.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know why, but it sort of tripped a light bulb in my head. And I got in the car and I drove back. It was about an hour's drive. And I thought, I'm done. I need to do something different. This is not fulfilling. I'm not happy. I'm not living life on my terms. And I got back in. I told the missus, and her comment was, "Have you been smoking something?"
Right.
But I made a decision then, and I decided that coaching had always been in me. I've been a football coach.
Oh, wow. Okay.
In the UK and America, I played a good standard of football, and I'd always liked sales and sales coaching and sales mentoring. I was mentoring people at my previous employment, and I thought, you know what, I'm gonna go and do it. So I literally started a business coaching business. I got a business coaching license, and I never forget the day I sat. I think it was August. It was in COVID, so it was August 20 or 21. I sat there with a blank piece of paper on my desk and thought, what the hell have I done?
Wow.
And started, and that's how the business started.
Wow. So what a time. I mean, look, there's so much there we can unpack, right? So initially you were in the corporate life before, which I'm sure a lot of people will be able to relate to, right? That journey of starting off as an employee, working for someone else, and then the trigger to kind of go into business yourself is a journey, I've taken, you've taken, and I'm sure a lot of people out there will be willing to take, maybe, might have reached that stage or not. So a couple of things you mentioned was the trigger was the time, right? You wanted to, watch your son's football game, but you just didn't feel like you had the time to yourself. Your boss said to you, oh, you got to make the time up, right? When it comes to being an entrepreneur, where do you think people find the balance with time?
I think it's quite hard for entrepreneurs because most people start a business for a reason, and that's usually driven by freedom of time and freedom of money.
Right.
And people have a dream, and I guess
that's interesting
it's hard
there
to get that
because
balance.
a lot of people, sorry to cut you, Dave, but I think a lot of people initially see entrepreneurship as a money-making thing, right? Oh, I want more money, therefore I'll go and be, a business owner or start my own business. But it's interesting to hear that it's not just about the money, is it? It's just there's other things to it, like time.
Yeah, there is. And, I often find, and the more I do this, and I've learned, the last 5 years, my business has evolved, and most people are looking for freedom of time, which is usually funded by freedom of money or freedom of profit in a business. But it's a really good question. And, to get that balance right of, your work-life balance, I don't think it's something that people take on board when they probably start a business. They see the bright lights of starting a business, and I take my hat off to anyone that started a business and run a business, because it can be tough and it can be lonely. But it's without doubt the best thing and the most fulfilling thing I've ever done.
Fair play to you, honestly. You took that decision, you made it, and here you are years later with a successful coaching business. So we're going to tie a bit into the coaching side of things, right? Why do you think it's important for business owners to have a coach?
Good question. And I could probably do a whole podcast on this.
Really? Yeah, I
I
mean,
guess
yeah. We've got the
the
time,
analogy
right?
I use is that most sports people, sportsmen, sportswomen, sports stars have multiple coaches. They probably have a fitness coach, a strength coach, a skills coach, a mindset coach. And most people start a business because they're good at something. They are good at being a chef. They're good at being a builder. They're good at fixing things. They're good at being a podcaster. They're good at being a coach. But most people don't or haven't been helped and taught how to run a business. So I guess, that that plays a lot. I see it a lot with businesses that people start a business. They have a dream and a goal. And they're very good at something, but that usually fizzles very quickly with no plan.
One of the things I actually wanted to bring up was in business, there's a whole different host of businesses, right? Different industries you can get into. Some people might find maybe starting a restaurant because cooking is their passion. Some people are very hands-on and practical, therefore they go into some of the trades, right? Some people are quite analytical, therefore maybe it's a finance or accounting role. Now, how important do you think it is for people to get more into trades this day and age, right? There's a huge demand, isn't it, for properties? We were speaking about this earlier, and you mentioned one of the things that you mentioned was AI can't build homes, right? Like you need people to physically go and build houses. You need people to lay pipes, do electrical work. So the demand's out there, isn't it? What would you have to say to someone out there that's thinking, okay, maybe I don't have the right skill set to go into accounting or starting a marketing agency. Maybe the hands-on stuff is more my lane. What would you have to say to
That's
someone?
a really good question. I think it goes back to your previous question, which I sort of half answered, which, why do people need a coach? Various reasons, as I sort of probably repeating myself here, but people start a business because they're good at something, right? They can do something.
Right.
And they genuinely probably want to make a better life for them and their family. And I've seen this time and time again. And trades are notoriously, and I work with a lot of trades, and I absolutely love working with trades. By the way, they're very skilled people, men and women, and they start a business because they are great at what they do. I think, and it doesn't necessarily need to be me, but most businesses will need some sort of guidance, some sort of guidance at the start. And I guess if I could take every business owner back to day one, I would get them to get absolute clarity on why they started their business and where they are today and where they want to be, and actually build a plan to get there. And I think, when you look at trades as an example, I've come across a lot of trades that I've helped that are extremely skilled and great at what they do, but they've never been helped how to run or grow a business. And why would they? It's probably like putting me or you, Mo, in front of, but fixing or repairing a boiler or building a house. I
Oh,
wouldn't
absolutely.
absolutely have a clue. So
No way.
I
Yeah.
guess going back to your initial question, why do people need a coach? I think there's various reasons. A lot of time it's to have someone to lean on in their business.
Okay.
Most people don't have someone to lean on. Your husband, your wife, your brother, your sister, your best friend will struggle to understand if they don't run don't run a business.
Yeah.
And I think having someone there to bounce off and ask you questions, accountability is a massive thing in business as well. So I'm sort of skimming the surface here, but I believe that every business owner, every entrepreneur will need someone in their business to see it from a different light.
Because initially, that's not something that people think about when they think of opening a business. They think of all the, obviously, there's loads of positives, the kind of glitz and glamour side of it. I'm going to start making loads of money. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. One of the things that I found when I opened a business was I no longer had a boss, right? I was my own boss. So let's say I made a mistake in the business, or, I forgot to do something, or I missed an email. There's no one that's really going to pull me up on that, right? So that's not really ideal, is it? Like, certain things can get slid by in the business.
Yeah, I
But
think it's a really good point. Sorry to interrupt. And I
no,
think
no.
there's 2 points I'd like to make there. I actually call it the iceberg effect, and I've done a few social posts on this and talks on this that I always get good feedback on. And when you run a business, people see all the good things.
Yeah.
That I hear a lot. It's okay for you, Dave. You a business coach and you just talk and get paid loads of money, and that's obviously not the reality. But they see the nice bits. They see you being able to manage your time, taking time off. They see you being, running the business on your own and not having to report to anyone. What they don't see is below the water, the iceberg. They don't see the stress and anxiety that running the business can cause, the cash flow constraints, the doubt, the self-doubt, the imposter syndrome, the loneliness that at some stage will probably hit most business owners, because there's so much opportunity out there at the moment, but it's a tough market. And I wouldn't change what I do for the world, but I'm well aware of the the challenges of actually running a business. And I think most people look at that and they see the above the water. They see the nice things, the bright lights, the things that you mentioned, the money, the freedom. What they don't see is the other things holding them back. And I like to think that, I know that I help business owners with a lot of the challenges that are under the water a lot of the time.
Yeah, absolutely. You brought up a really good point, actually, like the point of the stress and the anxiety, right? It's something that maybe people don't talk about enough, but in the business world, when you're running a business, right, there's a certain responsibility you have. Maybe you've got staff, you're responsible for them. You've got clients, you've got people that you need to take care of. There's obviously legal responsibilities that you have as a business to HMRC. There's other, you don't want to be sued or anything, right? So there's a lot kind of on your shoulders. I don't think people talk enough about how that can affect you as a person. And I think there's a lot to be said there along the lines of where a coach can come in, and just to have someone you can talk to, just to kind of maybe, because you're talking work, right? But it's not really work, is it? It's kind of...
No, I think a coach can be a number of things, and there's loads of good coaches out there, not just me. And I think having a coach is sometimes a personal preference. Someone that's a confidant in your business, someone that will hold you accountable and hold your feet to the fire, but also be your friend at times and listen. And you're right. I think it's a really important point. There is a lot of stress and anxiety in running the business. You're always on. In corporate employment, you finish at 4:30 on a Friday and you go back in Monday. You don't really think about work. When you're running your own business, it never goes away. And I think, I'm going to say it because it's probably the elephant in the room, but the biggest stress causer or anxiety is cash flow.
Oh yeah.
Nobody, or very rarely, do business owners wake up in a cold sweat in the middle of the night if they've got too much work and too much money in the bank. And it's something that's real, and it's something that's out there. And I've worked with hundreds of businesses over the last 5 years, and the majority of those businesses did have or could have cash flow challenges in the future. And some of that lives in the head, and some of that, there will be dips and peaks. But, that can cause a lot of anxiety. So, going back to making sure that you've got a plan and you've got a structure in the business to navigate that is extremely important, because cash flow really does cause stress and anxiety in a business.
And especially, going back to your earlier point of the whole reason for someone to go into business was their skill set in the beginning, right? Which may be cooking, it may be plumbing, it may be electrical work, it may be something along those lines, but it may not be cash flow management or financial forecasting. That might not be someone's initial skill set. So later down the line, you can see where someone might get into trouble, right? And that's where...
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think there's something else you mentioned a minute ago I was going to come to after the iceberg, which is accountability. And, I always talk about when I was in corporate employment, even as a sales director managing 50 or 60 people, the CEO would call you in at the start of the quarter, and you'd go out for lunch, or you'd have an open day or a planning day, and they'd give you your target for the quarter. That target wasn't negotiable. That target was set. That target was set to make the business money, to make the shareholders money, to get everyone paid their bonuses. So you actually spent your hard work and time planning to hit that target. And you put plans in place, and those plans changed. They didn't always work, but your time was focused planning and taking action. And I find a lot of business owners don't actually have that. that piece to start with. They don't have that target and the accountability of hitting that target because they're not really sure where they're trying to get to. And if there's no real target or goal, it's very difficult to build that. And accountability plays a huge part in running a business, because when you work corporately, whether you're a salesperson or a sales manager or a sales director or CEO, you report into somebody. And usually on a weekly, sometimes daily basis with American companies, you're reporting your actions and your figures and how you are measured against your targets. And I think it's a huge point that a lot of small businesses, or a huge, they could take away from the corporate world, that having a measured target and goal that means something is vital, because you can hold yourself accountable or be held accountable to it.
Okay, interesting. So I think kind of what I took from that as well was a bit about the working on the business versus working in the business, right? So working on the business is where you'd be setting the targets. Working in the business is where you'd be working in the business to hit the target, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, my journey for the last 5 years, I've learned loads. I've made mistakes, and I think my philosophy or my outlook now is slightly different to when I first started. When I first started, I used to try and fix everything for business owners.
Right.
To fix, their head, their plan, their numbers, their marketing. I think, the two things very early on I try and work on now is to get business absolute clarity where they're trying to go,
Okay.
having a plan to get there. And I think that is vital. And I'm going to be honest, over 90% of businesses I meet cannot articulate their plan to me,
Wow.
their target or their goals, and I don't believe they've got clarity on where they're trying to go and why they're trying to get there. And that doesn't mean to say they're not very good. Most people I work with are extremely talented, work extremely hard, but you have to have clarity and a plan. You have to understand where you're trying to go, and it has to mean something. And I think that's a really, really big point for a lot of businesses.
I mean, I've been following some of your stuff previously, and one thing I really took away was the 90 minutes you recommended to spend each day, right? 90 minutes a day. So when you talk to
Working on, and I talk about this a lot, working on the business, not in the business. And, to be clear, I'm not from another planet. I've started my own business with a blank piece of paper, and there is a surmountable amount of the day that we have to work in the business.
That's right.
Coaching or helping clients or managing people
Changing
or building
tires,
things.
cooking,
Exactly.
whatever it might be. Right?
However, nothing happens in business until someone buys something. That's a fact. And if, as a business owner, you have to be good at sales and marketing your products, or you have to have someone doing it for you. And working on the business every day is vital. And it's a game changer, because you can't move the business forward unless you're working on the business. And I see, unfortunately, a lot of businesses that really want to help people. They really want to help the industry. They want to help other people, but actually they're not working on their own business. And profit does make a business go round. And the magic 90 minutes I call it the magic 90 minutes, but it's a game changer if you can get into a habit of working on the business 90 minutes a day on the high value things, the important things in your business. It's a game changer. And it's really hard. I'll be honest. 5 years ago, I became a coach. And when I was doing my training, I thought, wow, this is going to be really simple. I'm just going to get business owners to focus on working on sales and the high value things in their business to move them forward. And it's probably one of the hardest things to get people into a habit of doing.
And that's what I was going to ask you, because I mean, there's no shortage of distractions there this day and age, right? So it's not just the business itself. There's outside, if you're a business owner, you might be working from home, or there's scrolling on your phone, talking to clients, talking to your staff. There's so many distractions, isn't it, this day and age?
There really is. And I think the phrase I use, which for some business owners doesn't hit first time, it's not your knowledge, it's your behavior that moves you forward. Most of us in business know what to do. We know that we have to get more leads and work on our marketing, and we have to sell more, and we have to follow up, and we have to look at our gross margin and all these great things. but actually we don't do it, or people don't do it, and it's your behaviour. It's being
Right.
consistent and relentless, to work on, like you said, work on the business and work on the right things for a small amount of time every single day, and that consistency can transform a business. And it's hard because it's the hardest thing for some people that start a business to do.
Yeah, yeah. It's just finding that focus and that drive, right? I mean, what do you say to people out there that struggle with that? What can someone do? One of the things I like to ask is, how do you balance your own business life with your personal life? Are there things that you're doing in your personal life that you think are helping in the business, or
There are
vice
two
versa?
brilliant questions there. I'll answer that one first. I I have to do certain things in my personal life that helps my business life, and I like working out. I like walking, I like running, I like going to the gym, and I've found that if I don't weave that into my weekly planner, then I can start to spiral a bit. I can start to do the wrong things, or my mindset, you know, potentially will go. And I think it all goes back to planning, Mo. If you set out, and I have a very simple planner I send people, or I work with people in, to plan in your week, and I actually color code it. So I get people to put in their personal things first, picking up the kids, taking the kids to nursery or whatever that may be, or walking or running is imperative for a lot of people to work on their mental health or their mindset. So that goes in first. And then they put in, for instance, for me, I put in my coaching meetings. People are paying me for coaching, so that's absolutely essential. And then I'll put in my working on the business time, and then I'll put in the sales meetings I actually want to do. And what that actually does is it gives me more time back, because I'm managing my time better. And it's something that, including me, that all of us business owners should and could improve on, which is managing our time, but making sure that we're making time to work on ourselves, to give
Okay.
ourselves what we need, and being kind to ourselves. And I think I see that in a lot of business owners. There's not a good balance there.
Right.
You know, there is no badge for working 60 hours a week. There's no medal at the end. That's not why we started a business. And I'm not saying any of this is simple and easy, but planning your week the week before and looking at what's important to you personally and professionally and mapping that out, it can be a game changer. And plans change, right? The minute you start, the planning changes, but having a plan is essential.
Do you know what? I really like that, honestly, David. I think one thing that really stood out for me there was adapting your business to kind of suit your personal needs, right? This day and age, we see a lot online. Business becomes almost like a competition. You know, I want to earn the most. I want the biggest house, the most amount of cars, jewelry, whatever it is, right? Business can sometimes get a bit over the top, and it becomes like a competition, a bit like a race. But I think what you're talking about here is making it suit your life so that there's a good balance there, right? As long as it's keeping you happy, keeping you afloat. And I think that's really
You should be a
refreshing.
coach, Mo. I think you've hit the nail on the head, and I see it, in my humble opinion. I see your business as a vehicle to your ideal life, and I think a lot of businesses are around the other way, which is the business is running them, and it's dictating to them how many hours they can spend with their kids, where they can go on holiday, how much money they pay themselves. And again, I'm not suggesting any of this is easy. I'm trying to help business owners reverse engineer that, and actually look at what is your ideal life. What does it look like from a personal level? How much do you want to earn? How many days do you want to work? Where do you want to go on holiday? How much do you want to put in?
And there's no wrong or right answer,
There's
is
no
there?
wrong or right answer. And actually then using your business as a vehicle to get you there. I mean, I'm very lucky. I love what I do. So it is my ideal life, but I still look at what I want personally and then connect my business to it. And I think there's too many businesses, like I said, that are probably the reverse, which is their business is running them. And we've all probably been there at some point. But it's a really, really great point, and everyone has an ideal life. It doesn't matter whether you want a lifestyle business or you want to sell your business. That's your life or that's somebody else's. But actually getting clarity, going back to clarity again, and I use that word a lot because I love that word, getting clarity on why you started this business and what sort of life you want out of the business. Because let's be honest, none of us woke up one day and said, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to work 60 hours a week. I'm not going to pay myself properly. I'm I'm not going to have a happy family or home life because I'm working too much. I'm not going to see my kids, and I'm not going to go on holiday where I want to. And I see business owners in this position.
Right.
Nobody woke up one day and said that's why they started a business.
Of course not.
So
No.
let's start with where we want to be, rather than where we think we can get to.
Okay, so let me ask you this, right? If someone's listening out there and they're thinking, oh, maybe I need a coach or I don't need a coach, what levels should someone reach? Like, where do you need to get to in your business to then think to yourself, do you know what, I need to pick up the phone or drop this guy an email?
I would just say pick up the phone because, and again, I'm not here to promote my services, but, I offer free strategy discovery calls. I work with solopreneurs that have just started their business, to business owners that are running 15, 20 million pound businesses. I have a coach, right? And I'm a coach. And people say to me, you don't need
Oh, hang
a
on, you
coach.
got a coach as well?
I have, yeah.
Oh,
I
wow.
have a coach once a month, a lady I work with, and she just keeps me accountable. And there's times, because as a coach, you are always helping people. You're giving quite a lot.
Yeah.
And actually, sometimes you don't work on yourself or the things. So I think, she keeps me straight and narrow. She keeps me accountable. She asks me questions. I still believe that everyone should have some sort of mentor or coach in business. And if anyone's listening out there or anyone, just pick up the phone, right? And it doesn't have to be me. It can be somebody else. And have a chat and understand potentially if you need a coach or if you'd like a coach or how a coach could help you. Because sometimes when you've got somebody looking from an unemotional point of view, or not as much emotion on your business,
Right.
or from a helicopter view, they can see things that maybe you're not. Because I call it getting stuck in the weeds. And we all get stuck in the weeds of our business from time to
Absolutely,
time.
yeah.
My job is I'm pulling business owners out and saying, let's rethink, let's look at the strategy. Are we on track? What do we need to do to get there? What are the constraints, to hold us back? So just have a chat with people.
So it could be anyone, really. It could be someone that's struggling with a business, or it could be someone that's just looking to expand the business. It doesn't necessarily have to be one or the other, right?
No, it doesn't. And a lot of people I work with are stuck. Not stuck financially, but they started a business. They've done quite well. They're not sure what to do next.
Right.
And typically what I try and do is work with them to go back and relook at why they started the business, what they actually want from it, because that can change over time. And look at, are they on track, and what plan do we need to be there? And sometimes that clears the mist. I think business can be misty sometimes. We're trying to do so many things. We're trying to run the marketing at times, run the accounts, sell, deliver, have a family, look after our kids, and especially for some of the ladies who are single mums as well. They're running the business and running the family, and to actually take them back out and prioritize their time, but get clarity on where it is they're trying to get to, and if they can get there, and what they need to do or change, to get there. I think everyone that runs a business should look at this every 6 months. Should look at, am I on track? Where am I going? Are they the right goals? What do I need to do to get there? And I think that sometimes clears the mist on where you're trying to get to.
Interesting. So look, just kind of going into some of the issues that businesses face, right? I know you earlier mentioned cash flow can be one of them. What are the most common issues you see people fall into when it comes to business?
Really great question. I'm going to just list them in no order. Not having a plan. I've mentioned that a number
Really?
of times. Huge.
Okay.
Not having clarity on where you're trying to go and why you're trying to get there. That is the first constraint I see in a lot of businesses. Ultimately, the business owner
Right.
themselves. They're either stopping themselves, or that's certainly a challenge for a lot of businesses. Understanding numbers. A lot of business owners started a business but have not been helped to understand numbers. I don't just mean accountants' numbers and HMRC. I'm talking about sales numbers and profit,
Cash flow.
and retained profit and overheads, gross margin, things like that. And understanding those numbers numbers are your friend in business. Most people don't look at them because they don't like what it tells you. So
Yeah.
certainly numbers, imposter syndrome, and self-doubt is, I put myself in that bracket as well, but a huge thing that is a challenge for a lot of business owners. Really truly believing in what you're doing, and actually believing that you can get where you want to get to. And most people can. Certainly that, having someone to bounce off in their business, and being stuck in the business, not working on the business, is certainly a big challenge.
Interesting.
And I guess I call it the handbrake effect. A lot of businesses are repeating the same year, or stuck where they've always been, because they've got the handbrake on. They are not articulating what they really want out of it. They don't really believe they can get there.
Right. So they're just kind
And
of holding themselves
yeah,
back.
and the other thing is consistency and being relentless, doing the important things day in, day out, and being consistent with that. Yesterday I met a very good friend of mine who's extremely successful. Runs an extremely successful business. I think it's Hawkridge Distillery, and he's one of the best salespeople I ever worked with. And I met him for lunch yesterday because I might be doing some sales training with him for his guys. And he said, Dave, do you remember those days when we sold advertising space
Oh, wow.
together? And it was really nostalgic because we were in Berkhamsted, looking at the offices we used to work in, and then we had lunch over the road.
Nice.
And he said, "Do you know what? The biggest thing I learned from that was, you need to keep calling people. The more people you call, the more conversations you have, the more you learn, the more lucky you get, and the more opportunity you get." And I think that is lost somewhere down the line with some salespeople or some business owners, that yes, you have to understand who you're trying to target and where you're trying to target them, but you've got to speak to enough people. As a business owner, you've got to, whether it's marketing or it's sales, you've got to speak to enough of the right people, and you've got to be relentless with that.
Do you know what's really interesting there? You mentioned, when you and a friend were talking, you were reminiscing about when you guys worked together, right? And the skills that you had then were the same kind of skills that have expanded now into your businesses, right? How important do you think it is for people that are still in an employed position to kind of look at the skills that they're using in that job and then think how they can transition that into their business?
Hugely important. I mean, for my sins, I've been in sales nearly all my life, and I don't think I would have been half as successful as I am. And I learnt those skills very early on. My first job, never forget it. It was for a local TV guide. I'm still friends with him now. A guy called Mike Bickerdike. Fantastic guy, really super successful guy. I think he didn't throw the yellow, but he put the yellow pages down and said, right, start with A and finish in Z.
Oh, wow.
And I had a week's
Cool.
trial, I survived that. And I still take to this day some of the lessons I learned from that, which was I was relentless. I made loads of mistakes and I didn't say the right things, but I kept going and I kept getting better and I kept calling people and I kept asking better questions. And I think sometimes there's clearly a lot more science behind that, but actually speaking to enough of the right people and asking enough of the right questions, and putting enough of the right pipeline in your pipeline.
So just on that, Dave, right? So I just had a thought there. We're talking about learning, right? So you're learning, or you're remembering what you learned earlier in your career to now benefit you later. How important is learning in the career of a entrepreneur? Because I think sometimes when you run your own business, you become your own boss, it can be easy to kind of lose touch with that and think, oh, do you know what? I know I've been doing this. I speak to a lot of business owners myself, right? And people been in business 20, 30 years and they're not receptive to what I'm telling them. I'm telling them things have changed. They're talking to me about things they used to do a long time ago, but maybe things have moved on now. So how important is the role of learning, and when should people really kind of stop or start doing that?
Great question. I think it's incredibly important to keep learning. It's really interesting. I do a lot of group coaching, and I run a lot of networking events or evenings where people come and I do a talk or I work on a subject. I learn just as much of them,
Right.
as they do of me at times, because I'm listening and learning. There's always something to learn from somebody else. Just because I'm a coach doesn't mean that I know everything, and I get it wrong sometimes, and I haven't got the answer to everything. And I think it's incredibly important that we open our minds and we listen. And it's, going back to sales, the best weapon you have in sales is using your ears, listening to what people are telling you, and taking that on board, and listening and asking more questions. So I think it's incredibly important to keep learning and keep working on yourself. And I think there's too many business owners or small business owners that don't want to invest in coaching, or don't want to invest in sales, or don't want to invest in themselves. And that doesn't mean to say they have to come and work with me, but we all need help. And, learning and putting that into practice is a huge part of that.
Because I think that's the first barrier, isn't it? I mean, you could hire the best coach in the world, right? But if you're not willing to learn from them, then what's the kind of point, right? I think someone needs to take that step.
And it's taking action as well. And the analogy I use a lot is, you go and see a fitness instructor or a personal trainer, and they do a couple of sessions and it's all going well, and they give you the plan. They give you the diet plan, they give you the workout plan. Yeah. You come back 2 weeks later and they say, "Have you got on?" They say, "Well, I'm not great. I've put on weight, or I've not done," and it's because they didn't do the exercises. And
we'll stick to the diet, right?
Yeah, being a coach is is very similar. I don't have a magic wand, you have to be relentless and take action. It's all really good planning. Planning is important. I've mentioned
it's the accountability that really.
But you've got to take action and make mistakes and get out there. And nothing happens, as I said, in business until you sell something. So that's a reality.
It's good to hear that, because I think the risk and the fear of making mistakes is what holds a lot of people back as well, right?
I think it is, and it's a self-imposter syndrome fear a lot of the time, and most people can do it. But it's the fear of rejection, the fear of when you're selling corporately and someone says no, it doesn't affect you personally. When someone says they don't want your product, or they don't want to come and use you as a coach, they want to use someone else, or they want to go on someone else's program, that's personal sometimes, and that hurts. But you learn to deal with that, and luckily I've been hardened. Right. Been in sales for 30 odd years, so it doesn't affect me so much.
I mean, look, with that being said, right, there might be someone listening that thinks maybe I've got the skills to become a coach, right? So what would you say are the most important skills that a coach needs to have?
Well, that's a really good question. I've not been asked that before. I think you've got to love what you do. Mm-hmm. You've got to really genuinely want to help people. Mm-hmm. A lot of coaches out there, or people want to be coaches, will see the bright lights of coaching. And I'm sure there's a lot of coaches out there that make a lot of money. There's also a lot struggling. And I think right at the back of this, you have to really love, in my opinion, what you do. And that's helping people. Mm-hmm. And that's holding people accountable. And you got to work hard on selling. I come across, because I manage some other coaches, and I often see coaches being relentless with learning the coursework, or learning the program, or learning how to coach, and they get stuck there rather than actually going out there and working on their business and finding clients. Mm-hmm. I think there's a real balance there. Of course, you need the skills to be a coach. Mm-hmm. I also think you need to be a good listener to be a coach at times. I think you've got to know when to push and pull, and just be authentic. Be you. People will use you, Mo, or me, because we're us. We're authentic, and I won't appeal to everyone, and my way won't always be the way that will suit everyone. But I think being authentic and being real is where you can grow.
David, I think that's a really good point. Some of the questions that I've asked previous guests is, when it comes to your interpersonal skills, right, it's really important to develop your skills, because it's all about having people support you, like people buy from people, right? How can someone develop those skills? And it'd be interesting to get your take on it. What do you think about those skills? How can someone cultivate those skills? And how can you just get those around you to support you, or go to places where people will be like-minded and support you in that way?
Yeah, hard question to answer. I think everyone can change. Everyone can learn. Mm-hmm. I think the ability to come out of your comfort zone and, look at where you can improve is a big part of that. And I like to think that, when I've lost a sale, or I haven't gained a sale, or I've lost a client, or I can have the ability to look inward and say, what could I have done better? What could I improve on? And there's usually something, because for me, perfection's never, none of us usually get to perfection. I think it's the ability to, going back to your points, to come out your comfort zone, and the ability to want to learn, and sometimes do the hard work.
Yeah.
And that's not always easy for everyone.
No, absolutely, absolutely. So, look, why don't you tell us a bit more about what's next for David Butler Coaching?
Yeah, I'm gonna be very honest. I didn't start this business to hire people.
Okay.
I'm absolutely loving working for myself and being accountable and being in control of what I do. I've offered one-to-one coaching for 4 or 5 years. I've been lucky enough to start a group coaching program with another lady, Jackie Hale, and we've managed to win a national coaching award for that.
Oh, wow.
Which is taking people through, business owners through 7 steps, the magic 7 steps I call them, which is really working on getting business owners clarity and a plan. So working on the why and the what rather than the how.
Who are the typical businesses that would want to work with you or that you'd want to work with?
Do you know what? It's someone asked me this yesterday, and my niche for this is, if somebody is struggling, or a business owner is struggling to have clarity on why they started it, where they are today, where they're trying to get to, and what they really want, and they don't have a plan, they should come speak to me about
And that's who you want to
program, because that's why I'm offering business owners to reset and look at where they're trying to get to, where they want to be, and getting absolute clarity and building a plan to actually get there. So that's going really, really well. I love group coaching. I love the atmosphere of having 8 to 10 people in a room. I love sort of public speaking and talking and seeing the whites of people's eyes and seeing people transform over the 7 weeks. That's part of the reason I do what I do. I'm starting to help other business coaches now, because I think coaches are very talented, but there's a lot of coaches that are not great at working on their own business. They're focused on helping others, but I want to help them grow. And just to live my ideal life, which, I'm not where I want to be yet. I'm in a good place, but I'm still not where I want to be. I want to make sure that I'm already doing my planning for 26, that I build my business to suit what I want in 26 and 27. I think that has to be, I have to practice what I preach, and that's what I preach.
I'm sure you're well on the way to get there.
Well, yeah, I'm doing okay.
All right, David. So we're going to do a quick fire round here. So I'm going to ask you questions. And
You're going to try and catch me out now.
Let's see. You're going to have 30
Only
seconds.
you can catch me out, Mo.
So you've got 30 seconds to answer these
Okay.
questions, and yeah, we'll take it from there.
Great.
Okay, first question is, do you see business owners stay in their comfort zone too much?
100% yes. And the reason they do that is because it's easy to stay where they are, and they haven't articulated and don't believe they can get to where they want to be.
Business owners often struggle with prioritization. What tips would you give a business owner to help them identify what to do first?
They first have to identify where they're trying to, and going back to it, where they want to get to and what their target is. That's the first thing. The second thing is to actually prioritize their time. So working on high value things, not hiding behind admin, working on the high value things that are going to move the business forward, and then absolutely planning their 90 minutes a day to work on the important things and to get those in their diary so they get into a habit of working on those important things.
What common factor do you see within most successful business owners?
That's an easy one. They absolutely are crystal clear on where they're trying to get to.
Okay.
They got complete clarity on what their ideal life is, what they want to earn, where they want to be in a time period, and they understand, they've connected that to the business, and the business numbers are there, and they know how to get there, and they are consistently relentless with their pursuit of those goals, because it's really meaningful, and they prioritize their time.
When setbacks hit, what tools and practices do you think business owners can use to kind of help them get back on track?
Great question. And setbacks will hit a lot of the time. I get them to step out of their business and relook at why they're doing what they're doing, how important it is, what the prize is, and then look at, do they need to alter the plan? And I'll give you an analogy here. and we were chatting about this earlier, weren't we? I use a simple analogy is if I was driving to Liverpool, I would never get in the car and I would never just head up the M1 north and just say, right, I think I know where I'm going. I'll just head north and see what happens. I would use a sat nav, which would say, actually, there's a big roadblock. We've hit some hard times. You need to turn left here, or you need to take that A road, and you need to go round that. And I think business owners tend to sometimes be in a rut, and we've all been there, where actually you get stuck into a rut and you keep doing the same things. So when something does happen that's unexpected, or things start to go wrong, that's the time you need to step out and relook at the route and the plan and what you need to change to get there, not continue just to do the same things that potentially got you in that position. And the sat-nav analogy, for me, nobody goes anywhere now, most people, without putting the sat-nav on, because the sat-nav gets you the quickest way to your destination.
Absolutely.
And that's what we're looking to do here. We're looking with setbacks to take them on board and help a business owner or get our businesses to the destination that means something to us in the quickest way.
Hey guys, thank you very much for listening. That was David Butler of David Butler Coaching. I learned a lot of great things. I've worked with David in the past, and the amount of things I've learned about business is honestly absolutely unfathomable. If you guys are ever thinking about using coaching, I highly recommend David's stuff. Check him out. And as always, please don't forget to support us here on YouTube and follow us on Instagram. That's ATZ Finance. Thank you very much.